Hello, and welcome to Conversations Worth Your While. It's a show in which I chat with authentic, heart centered experts about interesting topics to spark, inspire, and motivate both personal and professional growth. And today's conversation is worth your while. If you feel stuck and you don't like where you are, maybe you feel like you're in this thick fog and you just can't see in front of you at all. And since we can't actually navigate through thick fog like we can when we can see clearly, today we're going to share how to get unstuck, how to gain clarity, confidence, and direction. Because if the pandemic taught us anything, it's that life is way too short to hate your job, to be spinning with uncertainty, and to not love your life. I am Linda Bucher, and I have the best job in the world. I help people to get unstuck. It's my superpower. And I love empowering high potential, multi passionate people to find their superpowers, to get to that next level, and to get the most out of life, because that is what you're here for. I am a transformational speaker and a master certified life coach. But for the first 45 years of my life, I did live as a chameleon, feeling the whole time like a victim of circumstance. I didn't know who I was. And then when I felt a bunch of uncertainty, I was like, what now? So I embarked on a journey. I finally discovered who I am, and I connected my passion and my purpose with who I am. And then I reinvented my life to align with my true self. And guess what? When you do that, you become a happier, more confident, and more fulfilled person. But most importantly, that will help you, like it helped me, to get your gifts out into the world. So now it's my honor and my privilege to help you do the same, because you have a rich, full life to lead. You have very important gifts to give to the world, and you have a splash to make. So if you're ready to get unstuck, get to the next level, and make the most out of your life, I've got like a fun little quiz on my website that you can take to find your like adventure archetype, right? And so you can go and take that anytime you want, lindabucher.com. So back to today's show, which is how to get unstuck, how to gain clarity and confidence and direction. And we're going to do that today with my guest. And I have the pleasure of having Melissa Palmer here today. Melissa is an executive career coach, and she's not just like any career coach. A lot of career coaches, they help you with your resume and stuff like that. Melissa does it a whole different way. And frankly, the way that needs to be done, the only way that will get you out of the fog. And which is what she does. She helps people she gives them the clarity to know what they should be pursuing and why, the confidence to execute it, and the know-how to navigate today's job market, which is complicated. So, Melissa, thank you so much for being my guest today on Conversations with Your While.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for that introduction. You nailed it. I have the amazing privilege of helping people decide what they want to be when they grow up. And we work on getting them unstuck, as you said, so that they can get out of the fog, have clarity, confidence, and know how to move forward.
Yeah, it's it's awesome. We're doing the same thing. It's so awesome. There's so many wonderful people in the world who have an experience of when we did feel like we were in the fog, and we know the journey, right? We know how we get here. And then this is what, for both you and I together, we're like, this is our reason for being. This is it. We're here to help other people get out of that fog. And because I remember those exact words I used, like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm 45 years old. What do I want to be?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you think about it, when you're in thick fog, you can only see about an inch in front of your face. It's a scary place to be. It's very disorienting, right? So if you're looking outward, you're completely paralyzed. So the solution then is we have to navigate. When we're in thick fog, we have to change how we're navigating. It's not, often people come to career coaching wanting a GPS. They want to know, okay, here's where I am, here's where I'm going. I want step-by-step directions on how to get there. And that's actually not how this process works. This process is more akin to navigating with a compass, right? You're really orienting toward what's my true north. And the way that we discern your true north is by knowing what your superpowers are. And I use that term superpowers pretty broadly to include the skills you most love using, the values, interests, priorities, and goals that you have. We kind of wrap all of that up to get to that sweet spot that is your work to do in the world.
Absolutely. So you kind of gave people the answer, but let's talk a little bit more about this fog. So when high potential people, or the people you and I work with, right, and we are each high potential people, this is how we know, right?
Yes.
Basically former versions of ourselves.
Yes.
When you're in this fog and you're a high potential person and you know you've got skills and abilities and smarts and you've come so far. I mean, I was in like the fancy office with the high powered suits and the nice title and whatever, right? And I climbed that corporate ladder to get there until I was like, holy crap, I think I leaned my ladder on the wrong building. This is not, I don't want to be at the top of this building. It's not right for me. So this feeling of fog is also accompanied with feelings of not feeling fulfilled, right? We're like, okay, I'm not where, I don't know what I want to be grow up. I just know it's not this. I don't know what it is. I just know it's not this. And then also what happens is because we know we're smart and we already have confidence in what we've been doing, when we're in this fog and we don't have direction, our confidence takes a hit. Our perception of our worthiness takes a hit. And we start to think like, if I'm so smart, why can't I figure this out?
Yeah.
And this speaks to what you were saying, which is it's not about figuring it out cerebrally. It's not about, finding like someone's going to tell you first you do this, then you do this, then you do this. So I want to just recognize for our listeners today that you are still smart. You still have access to all those smarts and abilities and confidence. It's just there's only a fog. It's not you. It's the fog. Okay?
Well, and I would add to that, Linda, that it's actually people who do have a high potential, high capacity that feel that fog most. And the reason is that when we work with crazy smart people, they have an enormous zone of competence, right? These are people that can rattle off the classes that they got A's in, but hated, right? They know how to just grind stuff out and they can perform well. The problem is when you perform well at a large swath of tasks, then we can no longer rely on performance as the indicator of what work should you be doing, right? So this sort of classic example is, oh my gosh, you're so good in math. You got A's in math. You should pursue math, right? And it's like, well, okay, maybe, but also you might hate it, right? I once had a client who was an engineer with Procter and Gamble, and she was their kind of a star engineer. This was a little while back, so even less women at that time in engineering. And she did an undergraduate degree in engineering. She got a master's degree in engineering. She got all kinds of accolades for being this amazing female engineer. She came to see me because she threw up every morning before she went to work. She was depressed, anxious, stressed out. It was ruining her health, her relationships, but she was good at it, right? So when you're good at a lot of things, we can't use performance as the indicator for what direction should I be going in. We want to move from your zone of genius to, okay, what's in your zone of excellence? But even more importantly, what's your zone of genius? Because that's where you have the potential to be twice as good with half the effort. And that's what we're after.
Yeah. And I'd like to add, what's your zone of joy? Right? Because we're looking for fulfillment. And sometimes we're fulfilled when we solve a puzzle and we feel our smarts, right? We exercise our smarty muscles and we're like, I'm such a smarty pants. And then that brings me joy, right? If that brings you joy, then that's what brings you joy. It doesn't have to be, oh, what I do for a living has to be climbing trees because that brings me joy is climbing trees, right? So there's more things in life that bring us joy. And it's really important to have that. Our values and our joyfulness are a big giant part that we are looking at. I call them like puzzle pieces when I'm working with my clients and I'm asking them specific questions about like, what lights you up? What, what can you, I have this double negative question. What is it that you can't not do?
Yes. Yeah,
like really fun questions like that are helping people to get to know themselves, because what people have tried just back up a little, what they've tried, what I tried, maybe what you tried when you were young, is asking other people, what do you think I should do? What am I good at, right? What's in the want ads? Well, let me read the book, What Color is Your Parachute? And answer all those questions and see what the answer is. But that's not where the answers are. They don't lie outside of you. They lie within. We have to ask ourselves questions or have coaches like me and you that ask the right questions for people to be like, I didn't know that about myself. Now that you mentioned it, it's this. And so the puzzle pieces that we're pulling out are all these pieces of who they are now, today, which is not who you were when you got your last job 10 years ago or 20 years ago or graduated from college 30 years ago, more than that for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Working with a coach is essential here because you can't read the label inside your own jar. It's really hard to do this on your own. And often people will come to me and say, well, I don't have any idea what my superpowers are. And the truth is, we actually can't, not most people cannot just identify them head on. They're invisible to us. And instead, what we're hunting for are the signs that your superpowers have been in play. And so if you think of your superpowers as an invisible boat speeding across a lake, okay, we can't see the boat. It's invisible to us. But what we can see is the wake that the boat leaves. And that wake is things like joy, flow, energy, engagement. Those are the things we're on the hunt for. And when we start to identify, oh, these are the times that I feel like I'm operating on all cylinders, that I'm alive, that I lost track of time, that I felt energized, even if I was tired afterward, it was a good kind of tired. That's what we're hunting for. And once we identify those, then we just sort of reverse engineer that and say, okay, what were you doing? What were the skills that you were using when you felt all of those things? Who were you doing it with? How were you doing it? What was unique about the ways in which you did it? And we're really starting to craft what your value proposition is, what you have to offer the world. And that's so essential before you start thinking about a resume or a LinkedIn profile or any other thing. We just want to say, like, oh, here's what I do better than almost anyone else. And then we can start to ask the question, okay, who needs that? Who needs what you have to offer?
Beautiful. That's exactly, it's so similar. We do pretty much the same thing. It's so awesome. And it is the way we ask the questions. And also a really important question. I said, like, what are you doing when you lose time? Oh, I'm baking. Okay. Well, that doesn't mean, the answer doesn't mean you're supposed to be a professional baker. That's not the answer. Why? Let's go a little bit deeper. Why? What is it specifically about baking, right? So diving a little deeper, to have someone to ask these questions to help you dive a little deeper and a little deeper and a little deeper. And there's a lot of aspects. Like, I think of it like a disco ball. Like, I'm gonna come at you from all the facets. And some of them are like, what lights you up? What's your favorite hobby? Right? We're talking hobbies. Like, in every previous job, what did you love? I don't care what you hated. We're not talking about that. That has no bearing in where we're going. But what did you love? Why did you love it? Looking at the facets of, like, what I said about my letter was leaning against the wrong building. I wrote it's a free ebook on my website. It's called Success on Your Own Terms. It's how have you been chasing someone else's definition of success? And maybe it's time to rediscover what success means to you, right? And then the final things that happen, when a lot of times we can't pull out these puzzle pieces because people have limiting beliefs. As a master certified life coach, disbelieving those beliefs is like a specialty, and also repairing their sense of worthiness. I do like worthiness repair shop work, and those things get in the way. So some of the fog is definitely like, you don't know the right questions to ask yourself. You don't know who you are, but a lot of the fog is fog that you're allowing to be there based on other people's opinions, your little board of directors, your limiting beliefs that you have. I can't do what I love and make money. There's a big giant one. Like, says who? I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that what you just said mirrors. So I have a framework I use, the 6 pillars for designing your most prosperous career. And I mean prosperous in the most holistic sense, like we're talking about it. And the first and foundational piece is knowing your superpowers. The second foundational piece is mastering the inner game. So here we're looking at those beliefs and assumptions, the imposter syndrome, the ways in which you've gotten so burnt out that you might even feel like you've lost your sense of yourself, right? We have to pay attention to as a person is growing the scale and scope of their career, there's shifts in beliefs and thoughts that also your life will never get out in front of your beliefs. And so we have to pay attention to that. Those 2 pillars are sort of the internal facing work. They're the foundation. And if
Mhm.
we get those right, everything else flows with
Right.
ease. The third pillar is, okay, what are my options? What's going on in the job market? What am I choosing from? And we do some research to kind of stress test these options because it's really important that we get people out of a trial and error method of job searching that is reactive, time consuming, expensive. So we want to explore and research options, know what's going on in the job market. This is really important so that we can maximize income earning potential if that's what they want to do. The fourth pillar is building the relational bridge to where you want to go next. And
Mhm.
I purposely do not call this networking. This is about building your team for the long haul, and making sure that you have those relationships in place that are going to help you get where you want to go. The fifth pillar is tell a better story. How do you, okay, you've decided what you want to do, but now we've got to connect the dots and communicate that in ways that are compelling and winsome. And then the sixth pillar is what people think of when they think about career coaching. And this is just sharpening your fundamentals. It's all the how-tos. How do I do a resume, a cover letter? How do I interview? How do I answer these types of questions? How do I negotiate? And those are all really important, but they're one small piece of the puzzle. And if
Mhm.
we get those first 2 pillars locked down, everything else flows with much greater ease.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I think your first 2 pillars, my 5 things that I take people through are within your first 2 pillars. Uh,
Okay.
Most definitely. And my foundational one is to know your worth. And I mean know at a cellular level.
Yeah.
Everyone has a worthiness perception problem. They
Yes.
don't have if I ask them how worthy on a scale of like 1 to 100% are you, and they're honest with themselves, a lot of people say like 40, right? So we're starting
Yeah.
there because if you don't believe that you deserve what you and I are helping people get, which we already have, which we're walking the
Yeah.
talk and we live the life, right?
Yeah.
And it's not the
Yeah.
life of like the rich and famous and I'm flying around and like there's a lot of coaches out there that do all that. I don't even want that. I'm honest with myself about what I want. And
Right.
I live a beautiful life. I'm empowered. I know what I do is important. And I am like 99% happy every day, all year long. But
Yeah.
this is what people aspire to, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it starts with the worthiness repair, 100% no matter what. And then the part that where we overlap, obviously, and this is not a linear, I would say it's more like spikes of a wagon wheel. They're like, I have like 5
Mhm.
spokes, not spikes.
Right.
But the know your worth is the biggest one we have to crack first. Because if you don't think you're worthy of all that good stuff, your mind's going to keep throwing up obstacles, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So once you know your worth, what we're doing the whole time is we're freeing yourself from these obstacles that want to hold you back. The ones that have been holding you back and they still want to hold you back. We got to
Yeah.
up on those obstacles, the biggest one being the worthiness. So we're always doing that. And then we can also at the same time begin becoming clear on your purpose. And a lot of people that's new to them. They're like, wait, I have
Yeah.
a purpose. I just want to be happy. Like, yeah, but you know what? You also have a purpose. And with that purpose, it's like Spider-Man with, great power comes great responsibility. Like you have to get your purpose out into the world in
Yeah.
whatever way that means. That's what I say when I say you have a splash to make that ripples positively in the world. And in the world it doesn't mean you need to be Oprah and be rippling all over the planet, right?
Mhm.
Maybe just rippling in your church community, or in your family community, or in your as a neighbor, or in your business community, right? Wherever your ripples are meant to be rippling. But
Yeah.
that's why you've got to become clear on your purpose. And then you've got to harness your gifts. You got to harness them. People like, right, will help you find them. You and I like, but you got to harness them, and you got to own the power that you have, because you are so powerful. And you're talking
Yeah.
about superpowers, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we each have unique superpowers. Once you do all that, the thing you do then is now you have all this. Now you're like, I know my purpose. I know my gifts. I've harnessed them. I am powerful, and I'm ready to step into it without fear, because I've freed myself from all these obstacles, and I know my worth. I know it, and not in a cocky way, but in a
Right.
quiet confidence way.
Yeah.
Now all you're doing, and this is actually the easy part, is aligning your energy and direction with all that. Like,
Yeah.
that's how it
Like
works.
when you have all of those things you just described firmly in place, job searching is much easier. You're in the driver's seat. You are, I sometimes use the example of a car. So the difference would be a car driving, if I have certainly done this before with the parking brake on, and you're like, oh, this is just something's off. There's resistance. It's hard. It's not moving the way you just know something is off versus, oh, when I put my foot on the gas pedal, it's smooth sailing, right? And when I get tired, oh, it's okay. I just need to add gas, right? But when you're out of alignment, you're burning oil, right? I'm like, you're at risk of destroying your engine. So we want to get people into a place where we're eliminating the resistance, and there is a sustainable career, right? It's like gas. I just add more when I need more. I'm not destroying myself in the process.
Yeah.
Because often what people will do is hunker down and, we know how to hustle, we know how to grind and push through, and that works for a while. A lot of people achieve a lot of success that way. It's just not sustainable. It comes at a very high personal cost. That's what you and I know, are both passionate about helping people get out of that. Like we see their brilliance. We know, I mean, the world is on fire right now, figuratively and literally. And we need more people operating in their full capacity.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So what is one thing? Because you gave a framework, I gave a framework. That's
Yeah,
a lot. Okay. Audience members, we don't expect you to be able to do all that, and you can't do that on your own. That's why there's experts like Melissa and I out there to help you do those things. And however, let's just say if there's this one thing, what
Yeah.
would be one thing, Melissa, that you think people can do right now?
The one thing you can do today is start caring more about how you feel. Pay attention to what feels good to you. Start what I call a feel good journal, where you're just tracking with, oh, when do I find myself feeling engaged? If we think of your energy and engagement like a fuel tank, when does that peak? Do you remember the last time you lost track of time? Pay attention to your energy. Pay attention to what feels good. Because remember, those are the telltale signs that we're looking for. And if you just start tracking with that and paying more attention to it, I promise you, you're going to increase the ability you have to navigate in the fog. When you're thinking about, okay, I'm in this job, I'm not wild about it. Should I go this way or should I go that way? Right? Well, if you have a little bit of a record of what feels energizing to you, then you now have some wisdom, some guidance to say, okay, I don't know the whole picture, but I do know this piece of my job feels good. So how can I move in that direction? How can I expand the parts of my work that feel good? How can I magnify that? Are there ways that I can minimize the parts that drain me?
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. Just to add to that, because that's exactly the direction,
Yeah.
is We do have an inner compass, and our how we feel is the point. It's where it's pointing.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
what we're doing or what we're thinking, okay, feels
Yeah.
bad, it's
Yeah.
not your direction.
Yeah.
This is when the GPS is like, make a U-turn, turn around. You're going
Yeah. Yeah.
right. So
Uh,
that's when things feel like push. Oh, I'm being pushed in this direction.
mhm.
That is the wrong direction. It's time to make a U-turn. When it feels like pull, like when you're leaning in.
Yeah.
So notice what feels like pull. And yes, log it by all means, because then you can emulate what is your stay in that direction. You can keep using that inner compass, like, right?
Yeah.
But then navigate by it. Does this feel like pull? And if so, I'm just going to keep going in this direction. You don't need to see. If I were going to go visit you, Melissa, and I don't even know where you live, right? What would happen is initially I'd get in my car and I know my way around where I live, right? So it would all be familiar. But there'd be
Yeah.
some point where you gave me your address, and I plugged it into my GPS, but there's going to be some point where I am now on a road I've never been on before. Probably
Mhm.
not too far into my journey. And I'm going to have to trust that GPS is going to get me to your door because it's not familiar. I don't already know the way. But if I
Right.
trust that GPS and I trust it, and then there you are waving out your front door. Hey, you made it. That's great, Linda. Here you are,
Yeah.
right? Then
Yeah.
that's all I need to do. I don't need to know the whole way. I need to know what I can trust. And
Yeah.
my GPS, my inner GPS, is always available and always trustworthy. So I love your advice about pay attention to how you feel.
Yes. And when you can't see ahead, just know that nothing's gone wrong. This is the
Exactly.
nature of it, right? Because sometimes people are in a panic because it is a very uncomfortable place to be in, but it is the nature of it. It's nothing's gone wrong. It's okay. And we're just going to slow down, tune inward, and start to figure out your compass that's going to help you to move forward. And it's going to be in a proactive way. You're going to be in the driver's seat. You're not just reacting to whatever comes your way. You're not randomly job searching in ways that are like throwing darts at a dartboard blindfolded, hoping that something works out. It's like, no, we're going to really slow this down and make sure that you're moving forward in ways that honor your nervous system, that keep you calm and confident and feeling good throughout the process.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a fun process. People don't think that if they don't,
Yeah.
that's what they don't know. They're like, I'm like, when it's time to be discovering who you are and what's right for you, that purpose. Oh my
Yeah.
God, this is the most fun you're probably going to have. It's
Yeah.
so,
And
it's much
with
more
it,
fun than the trial and error of doing once you figure it out. That's not as fun. This part is the fun part.
yeah, and Linda, you are such a great example of what's possible, right? That it's possible to go from the hustle and grind and not being happy to figuring out what in the world am I doing, and then designing not just a career that you love, but a life that you love, a life that fills you up. And again, it's not about perfection, but it is so clear that you are having a blast, and I love that.
Thank you. I am. Well, thank you, Melissa, so much for being on Conversations with Your Wow. It's been a really wonderful conversation today and
Yeah.
definitely worthwhile for our listeners. So do you have anything that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, if you're interested, I do have an exercise, Discover Your Superpowers with one simple exercise. You can go to careerplanningstudio.com/more and download that exercise. You can also learn more about me and my work. I work one-on-one with clients. I have a mastermind that's going to be starting at the end of January. So if you're interested in any of that, go to careerplanningstudio.com/more.
Beautiful. Thank you. Awesome. And well, what I'm up to lately is working with 20 somethings that get out
Yes.
of college and they're like,
Yes,
adulting is
they
hard.
need you.
Yes. And so I have a group mentorship that I run. It's 6 months long. We meet twice a month, and we just really slow it down. And so if if anyone listening knows has a young person, maybe failure to launch, they're still at home, whatever, or just feeling really confused. And they really don't, all the pressures, there's way too much pressure. And the younger generation feels a lot more anxiety than people, like I'm 60 and we went through life differently. We were like, okay, suck it up, figure it out, you'll be fine, right? The suck it up doesn't work in today's world with our 20 somethings. That's not, they weren't raised that way, and that's not a thing. And they're not looking for a long-term career, they don't want what their parents wanted. Therefore, their parents are not the best people to tell them how to navigate their 20s, because the way their parents navigated their 20s was very different than how they need to do it nowadays in today's world.
Totally different landscape.
Yeah, so that's my little focus for 2025. I've already run this program I've run it for the alumni of a university, and they asked me to run it again. So I'm running it again for them, but I'm also running a private one. And I might run maybe 3 or 4 cohorts. Depends on how many people I get, but so that, because you and I, we get clients, they're like in their 40s and 50s and they're like, I don't know what I'm be when I grow up. I want to hit these 20 somethings so they never become the misaligned, unfulfilled people that the clients in their 40s and 50s and 60s that come to us are. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't have to live a hard life for you to come to that breaking point. What if we get you in alignment now in your 20s so you don't have a breaking point and you know how to navigate. And also I tell them, like, if you know how to surf, I'm going to teach you how to surf and how to navigate life, right? And navigate all these things. If you know how to surf, it doesn't matter if the waves are big or small, you know how to surf. Because yes, in life, big waves are going to come. It's not all unicorns and rainbows, but if you know how to surf, you're gonna be fine. So that's my little plug. And I don't have a web page out there yet. I will probably in a month or two. But if anyone listening is interested in that, I'm happy to just kind of hop on the phone, or you can always shoot me a message right through my website, lindabucher.com. You can connect and chat with Linda, set up a chat, or just send me a note. You can do both.
What a great
good stuff happening. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing for someone to gift to their baby adult in their life. I call them, like, if you have a son or daughter who's struggling, this is where they need to be.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so that is our show. Thank you once again. I'd like to ask our listeners to be sure to subscribe to this podcast and like the episode and share it with someone that you care about, because there's such good stuff in here. Come back next week for another great show to help you grow. And until next time, make sure that you've made this conversation worth your while by fueling the spark that it ignited.